Good morning, CCSP. Today is Thursday, February 11th, 2021, and it is a period 1 through 5 day. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So today is Thursday. Today is also National Inventors Day. If you could invent anything, what would it be? What do you think would be a great invention to help people or to promote something that you want to do? Think about it. So this week, or this month rather, we are promoting or advertising in honor of Black History Month, Black authors. And Ms. Ramirez started reading a book with you this week called Song of the Trees by Mildred Taylor. And she told you that Mildred Taylor is the author of Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. So we're going to continue with this book. I know that Tuesday, Cassie had woken up and she overheard a conversation between Mama and Big Mama. So let's see what's going on in the story today. After breakfast, when the sun was streaking red across the sky, my brothers and I ambled into the coolness of the forest, leading our 3 cows and their calves down the narrow cow path to the pond. The morning was already muggy, but the trees closed out to hear the leaves waved restlessly high above our heads. "Good morning, Mr. Trees," I shouted. They answered me with a soft swishing sound. "Hear 'em, Stacy? Hear 'em singing?" "Aw, cut that out, Cassie. Them trees ain't singing. How many times I gotta tell you? That's just the wind." He stopped at a sweet alligator gum, pulled out his knife, and scraped off a glob of gum that he had scooped through the cracked bark. He handed me half. As I stuffed the gooey wad into my mouth, I patted the tree and whispered, "Thank you, Mr. Gum Tree." Stacy frowned at me, looked at Christopher John and Little Man walking far behind us, munching on their breakfast biscuits. "Man, Christopher John, come on now," he yelled. "If we finish the berry picking early, we can go wading before we go back." Christopher John and Little Man ran to catch up with us. Then resuming their leisurely pace, they soon fell behind again. A large gray squirrel scurried across our path and up a walnut tree. I watched until it was settled amidst the tree feathers-like leaves. Then, poking one of the calves, I said, "Stacy, is Mama sick?" "Sick? Why you say that?" "'Cause I heard Big Ma ask her about some medicine she's supposed to have." Stacy stopped, a worried look on his face. "If she's sick, she ain't bad sick," he decided. "If she was bad sick, she'd be in bed." We left the cows at the pond and, taking our berry baskets, delved deeper into the forest, looking for the wild blackberry bushes. "I see one," I shouted. "Where?" cried Christopher John, eager for sweet berries. "Over there! Our last one's there's a rotten egg," I yelled, and off I ran. Stacy and Little Man followed me at my heels, but Christopher John puffed far behind. "Hey, wait for me," he cried. "Let's hide from Christopher John," Stacy suggested. The 3 of us ran in different directions. I plunged behind a giant old pine and hugged its warm trunk as I waited for Christopher John. Christopher John puffed to a stop, then, looking all around, called, "Hey, Stacy! Cassie! Hey, man! Y'all cut that out!" I giggled, and Christopher John heard me. "I see you, Cassie," he shouted, starting toward me fast as his chubby legs would carry him. You're it! No, not till you tag me, I laughed as I waited for him to get closer. I glanced up at the boughs of the wintry smelling hiding tree, expecting a song of laughter. But the old pine only tapped me gently with one of its long, low branches. I turned from the tree and dashed away. You can't catch me, I taunted, dodging from one beloved tree to the next. Around shaggy bark hickories and sharp-needled pines, past blue-gray beeches and sturdy black walnuts, I sailed while our laughter resounded through the ancient forest, filling every chink. Overheard, the boughs of the giant trees hovered protectively, but they did not join in my laughter. Deeper into the forest I plunged. Christopher John, unable to keep up, plopped on the ground in a pant. Little Man and Stacy, emerging from their hiding places, ran up to him. Ain't you caught her yet? Little Man demanded, more than a little annoyed. He can't catch the champ, I boasted, stopping to rest against a hickory tree. I slid my back down the tree's shaggy trunk and looked up at its long branches, heavy with sweet nuts and slender green leaves, perfectly still. I looked around at the leaves of the other trees. They were still also. I started at the trees, aware of an eerie silence descending over the forest. Stacy walked over to me. What's the matter with you, Cassie? He asked. The trees, Stacy, I said softly. They ain't singing no more. Is that all? He looked up at the sky. Come on, y'all. It's getting late. We better go pick them berries. He turned and walked on. But Stacy, listen. Little Man, Christopher John, listen. The forest echoed in an uneasy silence. The wind just stopped blowing, that's all, said Stacy. Now stop fooling around and come on. I jumped up to follow Stacy, then cried, Stacy, look! On a black oak a few yards away was a huge white X. How did that get there? I exclaimed, running to the tree. There's another one, Little Man screamed. I see one too, shouted Christopher John. Stacy said nothing as Christopher John, Little Man, and I ran wildly through the forest, counting the ghost-like marks. Stacy, there are practically all of them, I said when he called us back. Why? Stacy studied the trees, then suddenly pushed us down. My clothes! Little Man wailed indignantly. Hush, man, and stay down, Stacy warned. Somebody's coming. Two white men emerged. We looked at each other. We knew to be silent. You marked them all down here, one of the men asked. Not the younger ones, Mr. Anderson. We might need them too, said Mr. Anderson, counting the X's. But don't worry about marking them now, Tom. We'll get them later. All them trees up past the pond toward the house. The old woman agreed to you cutting these trees? I ain't been down there yet, Mr. Anderson said. Mr. Anderson. Tom hesitated a moment, looked up at the silent trees, then back at Mr. Anderson. Maybe you should go easy with them, he cautioned. You know that David can be as mean as an old jackass when he wanna be. He's talking about Papa, I whispered. Shh, Stacy hissed. Mr. Anderson looked uneasy. What's that got to do with anything? Well, he just don't take much of any dealings with white folks. Again, Tom looked up at the trees. He ain't afraid like some. Mr. Anderson laughed weakly. Don't worry about that, Tom. That land belongs to his mama. He don't have no say in it. Besides, I guess I ought to know how to handle David Logan. After all, there are ways. Now you get back to my place and get some boys and start chopping down the trees, Mr. Anderson said. Wow, looks like something bad may be getting ready to happen. Let's tune in tomorrow to see what the rest of the story is. CCSP, have a wonderful day of learning and teaching.